Hey, morning guys. This is Thane from Nature Preserve Life. Judy's back in Albuquerque. Back out on the property again. We do have some exciting news coming up. I think I will save it for another episode, but yeah, this is going to be a really interesting opportunity for us coming up here out in Deer Canyon Preserve, so we'll share it probably on the next episode. But right now I'm back out on the property and we are just busting butt with the backhoe because we have a little change of plans. What we got to do with the red flag warnings from all the fires out here. All of our welding's been suspended, so we can't do any more on site until the red flag warning's gone. And even then, we got some special protocols we're implementing to make sure the welding stays safe out here and we don't accidentally start a fire. Anyway, what we're going to do to try to prepare for a worst case scenario, this is the upstream side of the river channel behind me. We have not finished the welding on it and gotten things built up the way we want. But what we're going to do now with the backhoe is move a lot of this rock material here into the berms and leading down into the channel on both sides and across a bit, trying to direct the water and keep it away from any softer soil areas in the berms that could easily erode with a strong water flow if we got hit by a monsoon before we finish the welding and building up this road the way we really need to do. So that's what's going on right now. So I'm turning over. So what I'm going to get off to next is we had tested in an earlier episode, I think last fall sometime, taking one of the and testing one of the two main supply lines for from the well system up to a couple properties that are on the same well, and we tested it to make sure there's no leaks and that everything looks good, but we never got around to testing the lower trunk line of this well system to the properties that are on it, including our property. And there's one other neighbor property below us where the clean out is. So I'm going to go ahead and get the tool, get up to the well system, start opening things up and testing it, look for any signs of pressure leaks, whatever, which would be an indication we have a break in the line somewhere, which isn't uncommon. That does happen in developments like this, especially when things have been sitting around not used for many, many years. So before we get around to breaking ground and building anything here, I want to make sure that we have a water line, a trunk line and stuff coming down to our property that's in good working order. And if it's not, I want to get it fixed this year long before we break ground. And I thought I'd show a couple other things here. We do have like this little real thick heavy duty tarp and some fire extinguishers and water type, and then my little 10-pound guy down there, the chemical retardant type on site. And then what we also did, oh yeah, that's my little 3-pound guy there. What we also did was took some of the materials back to the shop in town and we prefabricated these pieces so they're ready to be set into the driveway section back over here once we get the go-ahead and we're not under the red flag warning for fires. Okay, getting the video rolling here. So I just was down in the little well room here underground and opened up the valve, the little ball valve that sends the water out here so we can to the street, and then from the street we can go ahead and test the trunk lines. And just to confirm, we got water out here. Come on, baby. Oh, so rusted it felt like, but there we go. We got water. And I can even hear the pump going to pressurize that bladder tank behind me. So what we should have to do now, the next step, be coming over to these two little water mains here. this one, if I can point to it right, we tested last time on a prior video, and that went up the hill behind me to a couple properties. We wanted to test the water up there, make sure we got a good pressurized line going up, and the water was able to get up there because there's been some problems in the past with some other building that had started here this last year where we had a problem. So what I got behind me now is this one I'm going to open up, and it goes to the lower trunk line down to our property and one other neighbor's property. And I'm going to go down to the clean out, open it up, make sure water comes through. And then also, once we get it pressurized down there in the lower trunk line here, and we've seen the water come through and it looks good and there's good pressure, I'll go ahead and close it down at that end at the very bottom at the clean out, and then come back up here and check the meter, the pressure gauge, I guess, and make sure it's still holding pressure, that it's not dropping. If it does start dropping, that means we got a leak in this lower trunk line somewhere, and we'll have to excavate it out and find that leak and troubleshoot before we start building. So here we go. Okay, it's opening real easy, not rusted shut. I can even hear a little water going. I think that's enough for now. I'm going to go ahead and take the little tool here with me down to the clean out on the lowest property on this trunk line and try to open it up down there, and hopefully we'll have water coming through. And hopefully it'll hold the pressure too when I shut it off down at the lower end. I don't know if you can hear the pump running down there to put water into the bladder tank down here, but that's what that noise in the background is. So anyway, I'm driving down to the clean out on the lowest property. We'll check that in next. Okay, I'm at the lower property, the very bottom of the trunk line, and this is the little clean out valve here. And of course I have the ability to open this up from down here. I'm going to do that now. And hopefully water will make it. Hopefully there's no horrible breach in the line above me. Well, I hear water moving. That's a good sign. Hey. Okay. Hopefully that's showing up in the camera. It's hard to see with this. Yeah, I think it is. I think I'll let it run for a moment. Make sure there's no little gurgling, air lines, pockets in this line that need to be dealt with. Let them come through. Anyways, you see as I'm opening it up wider, we got good water flow coming down here. That's a very good sign. So now I'm closing it up. Okay, now we're just down to a trickle. There we go. Had a weird weather storm come through, or pattern, I guess, up north of us. I guess the heart of it's around Denver, but the cold front brought some chilly weather down here to central New Mexico also. It was like 34 up in the mountain passes I was driving through. While yesterday, it was like well into the 80s. Anyway, this morning on the property I got here and it was like 41 or so. A little chilly, but kind of refreshing to get out of the heat for a while. Anyway, I'm checking a few other things out just to make sure. Yeah, nothing weird there. Okay, I'm going to stop recording for now, and I think I'm going to go back up to the well itself and see if there's a leak going on in this lower trunk line, or is the pressure holding good and firm, which is what I'm hoping for. Otherwise, we're going to have a bit of a bill hunting down where the leak is and repairing it. Okay, I'm back up at the little pump house here, and things look promising. At least if there is a leak, there's no big leak. Anyways, in the bladder tank, the two pumps that we have the redundancy for, we swap back and forth every 3 months. Anyway, the line's still open at the top here. The bottom, of course, I closed it, and I'm just watching the little pressure gauge. This little guy down here. And I think that's a heater firing up. Not the pumps, which is good. And I'll crawl in here in just a moment and get a good close-up look at that little pressure gauge there and see if it's still about 145. It was the PSI that I was seeing when I first crawled in there. See if it's still holding. I'll probably wait up here for another 10-15 minutes just to make sure that it's not slowly dropping with a slow leak or something and the pump's firing up. But right now it looks pretty promising. At least there's no huge leak in the line. Otherwise the pumps would have fired up by now. We'd see that pressure gauge needle jumping all over the place. But I'll crawl in and take another close look in just a second. Well, it looks like it's around 140 right now, 139, 140. Not quite at the 145 it was earlier, but I don't think that's a big issue. But I will hang here and just make sure, like I say, for like another 10 or 15 minutes and just make sure that we don't have any signs of an obvious leak. But right now I'm pretty happy. It doesn't look like we do. But I'll leave everything on the upstream side here by the pump house still open and on, and try to listen and capture any leak in case we do have one. So what I thought earlier was one of these little heaters running. It's not. They're pretty cold. But what I think that noise is I'm hearing, it sounded like a fan, appears to be this. You can see the little red needle slowly moving around. This is for the number of gallons, and it looks like we are still moving some in. Very slowly though, so I'm not sure exactly what that's going to translate to, but it's certainly not translating to, well, there is a little bit of a drop in pressure. Now it's down to like 138, 137 maybe. Maybe we are into some kind of trouble here with a small leak. Okay, I crawled back out of the well. If I'm reading the gauges right and I'm reading the everything correctly myself, so what I'm going to do is drive around real carefully where I think it is, where the trunk line probably should be buried along the road. Look for any signs of water creeping up, gurgling up, whatever. Maybe we'll get lucky and find just one big leak somewhere that's easy to hunt down. And before I start off on that adventure, I'll make a quick call to someone that knows the history around here, a neighbor that was the former administrator here. See if he's got any idea if there's any maps, accurate maps of just where these trunk lines were buried. So we're back down in the trench here, building things up. You can see back here on this side of the driveway section above the culverts going back across the far side, we've backfilled that in pretty good and compacted it, and it looks pretty good. I just wish we could get to this side through here, but unfortunately we can't until we can get the welding done here. So for now, what we're trying to do is back in here, you'll see some pile of rocks going on. We're trying to build up a little retaining wall on that side, on the upstream side, and then we'll do the same on this lower side below here too, that could really eat into the bank here and erode it quite a bit in a really bad monsoon. So we're just trying to prep for that as good as we can. Okay, so pretty much coming to an end of the day. We built this back up, even though it's not safe enough to drive on, whatever, built up high enough. It's at least something that'll help with the lateral load as the vehicles go across here. And we built up this area today, got that nice and solid, so I should be able to take the truck across pretty safely without white-knuckled nightmare on my hands here. So we kind of built up both banks on the upstream side a little better. Kind of see how we built up here and here, and then over on this side it's still a little messy, but we did kind of get this built up through here. We kind of cleared the river channel through here a little better. I think it's at least good enough to survive the monsoon without serious damage to what we've done so far. I mean, the biggest thing is these banks on both sides, and of course this little section over on the side here to make sure. You can kind of see down here we kind of built it up in front of the other culvert down here. So anyway, it's approaching 5 o'clock. I think it's kind of quitting time here. We didn't do anything with the downstream side. It's pretty much like we left it, and it's looking good. But when we can get welding again, we'll go ahead and finish up the pieces here and get the guardrails in place, and some more rebar and cattle panel and all that, and again more guardrails across the top here. And then we'll start really piling in the dirt here and gravel, the caliche gravel pit. We'll go ahead and get that all tamped in real good too here for a final top layer. But that's still probably many weeks away at the rate we're going, just because the fire dangers here have pretty much stopped the welding on site. We did some fabrication in the shop, but that was only about 5 hours worth of work. But I still have quite a few more hours of welding on site to finish this up. Thank you for watching an episode of Nature Preserve Life in Mountain Air, New Mexico. If you'd like to follow along and support our channel, please press the subscribe button and gong that bell to be notified. After all, it's free. Free is a very good price. In the future, we'll plan to focus our episodes on our eco-friendly build of earthen construction and dark night astronomy, that big guy there, and tourism of the regional area, as well as establishing a Patreon account for the sole support of wildlife in Deer Canyon Preserve. So stay tuned. Cheers.